Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and we're continuing with chapter 18. Lord Balaram slays the demon Pralamba. And today's verse is verse 18 and 19. I'll read verse 18, which has no purport, and then we'll read together verse 19, which has a purport. Verse 18. Tam vidvan apita sharho bhagavan sarvadarshanaha anvamudhatak sat sakyam vadham tasya vichintayam. Translation. Since the Supreme Lord Kṛṣṇa, who had appeared in the Dasharha dynasty, sees everything, he understood who the demon was. Still, the Lord pretended to accept the demon as a friend, while at the same time seriously considering how to kill him. Please repeat. Tatropāhūya gopālān Kṛṣṇa prāha vihāra-vit He gopā vihariṣyāmo dvandvī-bhūya yathā-yatham tatropāhūya gopālān Kṛṣṇa prāha vihāra-vit He gopā vihariṣyāmo dvandvī-bhūya yathā-yatham tatropāhūya gopālān Kṛṣṇa prāha vihāra-vit He gopā vihariṣyāmo dvandvī-bhūya yathā-yatham tatra, thereupon, upāhūya, calling, gopālān, the cowherd boys, Kṛṣṇaḥ, Lord Kṛṣṇa, prāha, spoke, vihāra-vit, the knower of all sports and games, He gopā, O cowherd boys, vihariṣyāmaḥ, let us play, dvandvī-bhūya, dividing into two groups, yathā-yatham, suitably. Translation. Kṛṣṇa, who knows all sports and games, then called together the cowherd boys and spoke as follows. Hey, cowherd boys, let's play now. We'll divide ourselves into two even teams. So please repeat. Kṛṣṇa, who knows all sports and games, then called together all the cowherd boys and spoke as follows. Hey, cowherd boys, let's play now. We'll divide ourselves into two even teams. Purport. The word yathā-yatham means that Kṛṣṇa naturally wanted the two teams to be evenly matched so that there would be a good game. in addition to the pleasure of sporting, the purpose of the game was to kill the demon Pralamba. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Kshakshur Unmilitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So what is Krishna's purpose for us, and what is our purpose, or what is our plan for Krishna? I focused on the word purpose here because the text tells us that Krishna had a plan when he saw that demon arriving. I have a small plan. Some years ago, one of my Shiksha gurus advised that I should try to preach in France, given that I also have a French nationality. And so I have a plan. I've been trying. I tried a few times, didn't work so well. I'm trying to do a podcast in French, following in the footsteps of, maybe you know, the Wisdom of the Sages, one of the famous podcasts in America. In September, by Krishna's mercy, I'm moving to the south of France with a devotee who's also, I would say he is, enthusiastic about preaching in France, and so we'll rent a place together in a place called Toulouse where there's no devotees, and hopefully try to do some outreach there. So I have a plan, and we can all identify with this notion of having a plan for Krishna's service. All of us here are practicing Krishna consciousness. We've received, instructions from Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya. We've received instructions, advice from senior devotees, and we can all identify with a desire to plan, or like Prabhupada would say, tax your brain on how to accomplish the broad plan or the broad instruction of spreading Krishna consciousness, of being Krishna conscious, and maybe specifics also, how to do it specifically. So that propensity to make plans, we hear, comes from Krishna. Like everything comes from Krishna. Aham sarvasya prabho. And here in this lila, by the way, I forgot to ask blessings from the senior devotees. Hare Krishna. Here in this lila, we can see Krishna, God, making a plan, and making a plan also in his mind so he doesn't disturb his dear cowherd boys. So that propensity comes from Krishna. And so it's interesting because philosophically or theologically, we accept the Shastric statements that Krishna is, or God is omniscient, and he's Satya Sankalpa. Right? In the Bhagavad-Gita 9th chapter somewhere in the Purport, Prabhupada says that Krishna's determination is itself actual fact. As opposed to, especially conditioned souls who are finite, God, he just wishes something or he plans something and it just happens automatically. Prabhupada says, we may think to do something, but there is so many impediments, and sometimes it is not possible to do as we like. But when Krishna wants to do something, simply by his willing, everything is performed so perfectly. And yet, we see in the pages of the Bhagavatam, this omniscient, supreme Lord who's all-powerful, who's Satya Sankalpa, having a moment or two when he's thinking, what to do? And that's exactly what happened when Pralamba comes, the text tells us. Pralamba comes disguised as a cowherd boy, and Shukadeva Goswami tells us that Krishna understood immediately he was a demon, but still, he's thinking, how do I kill him? That was the question. He pondered. How do I kill him? And also, which shows Krishna's compassion and love for his intimate associates, he's thinking, okay, how can I kill him, but also not to put into anxiety or into fear the cowherd boys. You know, sometimes you see either in movies or in real life a very dangerous situation that the parents are aware of and the child is not aware of. That some killer is coming or something, but the mother or father says, oh, look at this nice toy, or oh, please take your sandwich, or knowing that this impending danger is coming. So in a similar way, we can relate to Kṛṣṇa seeing this big demon coming. Now, Shastra says that with Kṛṣṇa there's no fear, no one can kill Kṛṣṇa, no one can hurt the cowherd boys, but still, in a sense of rasa and emotion, Kṛṣṇa is thinking, okay, how can I kill this demon and at the same time not hurt my cowherd boys? But this moment I find really interesting, this moment of like wondering what to do is, it must be the action of yoga maya. And we read that this is what makes Kṛṣṇa or God a person. Right? If souls can have moments of thinking what to do, what not to do, even for material plans, then God must also, in lila, in transcendental lila, not that he has to, but in spiritual lila, ask himself, okay, what do I do? Right? And that's what Kṛṣṇa did in regards to Pralamba Sura. Balaram had the same similar moment of wondering what to do, or even more, kind of a transcendental confusion, the text tells us. As we read in the text, when Pralamba Asura took Balaram on his shoulders, after Kṛṣṇa had announced the plan. Right? We forgot to mention, Kṛṣṇa was thinking, okay, what to do, but then he comes up with the plan. Okay, we'll do this. Okay, boys, come here. And he gathers them all. And he tells, okay, now we're going to play. So they all say, okay, great, yes. And so when Pralamba Sura carries Balaram away with the desire to kill him or to kidnap him, the text describes that at one point Balaram, who is gravity personified, and the text says as heavy as a mountain, started to weigh on the shoulders of Pralamba, who thought, God, this is... And so as a result, he manifested his original form, which, again, the Kṛṣṇa book and so on describe as big as, to the limit of the clouds. And it's really poetic. He had a golden helmet. He had a golden helmet and red eyes and clawing teeth, and he's described as a gray cloud with thunder carrying the moon. Balaram ki jai. So when he assumes this form, Balaram, who we understand is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and therefore is omniscient, has a moment of, what is this? Like Prabhupada says in the Kṛṣṇa book, he asks, he says, how is it that this carrier has changed completely? So this is testimony to how God is, well, first of all, we could say, adorable in a way. Like, he's Kṛṣṇa, he's Balaram, he can do anything, but it's like, oh, how come this boy, how come this carrier has changed shapes like this? And it's testimony to, again, God being a person. Being a person. Again, if individual jiva souls like us can have moments of confusion in Mahamaya, then why can't the Supreme Personality of Godhead also have his moments of confusion in Yoga Maya, right? When Kṛṣṇa appears as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, there's also a lot of references to them wondering what to do and establishing plans. So with your permission, I want to review a few of these passages from our Shastras in Chaitanya Lila now, where there's similar kinds of moments of either so-called confusion and so-called plan making, right? In the Adi Lila, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives the analogy of the tree, right, and the fruits. And he describes how this tree has these wonderful fruits, and he laments and he wonders what to do. This is exactly the statement. He says, since the tree of devotional service is transcendental, every one of its parts can perform the actions of all the others. Although a tree is supposed to be immovable, this tree nevertheless moves. So this is the tree of Chaitanya, his own tree, the tree that's spreading Krishna consciousness all over the universe. He continues, all the parts of this tree are spiritually cognizant, and thus they grow, as they grow, they spread all over the world. And here he goes, I am the only gardener. I am the only gardener. How many places can I go? How many fruits can I pick and distribute? It would certainly be a very laborious task to pick the fruits and distribute them alone. And still, I suspect that some would receive them and others would not. I am the only gardener. If I do not distribute these fruits, what shall I do with them? How many fruits can I eat alone? So here we have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, non-different from Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, omniscient, Satya Sankalpa, and still he's having this spiritual emotion of doubt and almost anxiety. As a matter of fact, a little later in Antya Lila, he has a discussion with Haridas Thakur, it's said. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu laments, like, what to do with all the Yavanas of Kali Yuga, right? My dear Haridas, in this age of Kali, most people are bereft of Vedic culture, and therefore they are called Yavanas. They are concerned only with killing cows and Brahminical culture. In this way, they are all engaged in sinful acts. How will these Yavanas be delivered? And what does Haridas Thakur say? He says, my dear Lord, don't worry, don't be in anxiety. As if God needs to, is in anxiety. He's not, from a, Siddhanta, ontological point of view. But again, because in the realm of rasa, he's feeling, spiritual emotion, spiritual anxiety, a spiritual what to do moment. Haridas Thakur glorifies the holy names, satisfies the Lord. The Lord is, Kaviraj Goswami says, is pacified, is actually happy, but still he asks more questions. He says, well, how will, the trees and the insects, immovable entities, be delivered? And then Haridas Thakur reminds the Lord, my Lord, you have set a plan. Confirmed by the bell. You have set a plan in motion. And then Mahaprabhu gives this order. I therefore, what to do about saving the world? Okay, therefore I order every living being to accept this Krishna consciousness movement. Advaita Acharya also, it stated, was feeling great distress, how to save these conditioned souls. And so therefore he decided, okay, you know what? My plan is to make Krishna come. And so he worshipped his Shaligram Shila that we can see in Shantipur, with the purpose, Kaviraj Goswami tells us, of having Krishna come down. And Haridas Thakur also, it says the same thing. He said, okay, with the desire to make Krishna come, that was his plan, I'm just going to chant. And he was just chanting with the desire to make Krishna come. So this notion of plan, there's a plan for this planet. And it's very clearly established. Of course, yathā-yatham hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata, that's the principle that Krishna establishes. But specifically for this planet, in this yuga that we're living, you have the Chaitanya Mangal, you have Lochandas Thakur, who summarizes it perfectly. And he quotes Mahaprabhu. He says, I want to flood the whole world with the chanting of the holy names. I will personally preach and flood India with Harinam Sankirtan, chanting of the holy names, and my Senapati Bhakta will come, preach in different countries and flood the world with the chanting of Hare Krishna. A little parenthesis on this notion of Senapati Bhakta. You know, that's part of Krishna's plan for this age, for this planet. The Sankirtan movement with Prabhupada as the Senapati Bhakta. As a small parenthesis of interest for those who may be interested. In other Gaudiya groups, I mean, there's a contention about who is the Senapati Bhakta, right? And, you know, saying this with all due respect, some other branches of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's tree would claim that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada is the Senapati Bhakta mentioned. And many devotees, I would say the majority of devotees in ISKCON, would respectfully disagree and say, well, actually we believe that it's Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta is from Srila Prabhupada. And an interesting point that, just a historical data, Bhaktivinoda Thakur predicts this Senapati Bhakta also as part of the plan. In Jaiva Dharma, he says, a personality will soon appear to preach the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world. Now what's interesting is that the date of publication of Jaiva Dharma is 1896, and by that time Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was already alive. So one could use, you know, if you ever get into a respectful, you know, brotherly, cousinly discussion with you know, those who would claim that the Senapati Bhakta is Bhaktisiddhanta, you could say, well, you know, why would Bhaktivinoda Thakur say a great personality will appear if he was referring to his son who has already appeared? Just a small parenthesis, no disrespect to anyone. We accept Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as a Mahabhagavat, as a, you know, Nityasiddha, as an eternally liberated soul, on the same par as Srila Prabhupada. But just, you know, since we're talking about the plan of the Lord here, and the plan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for this planet, which includes this notion of Senapati Bhakta, we can't go around that. Just thought of adding that. Bhavananda Prabhu, ex-Bhavananda Swami, in his Prabhupada memories, or in his memories of Prabhupada, that's on the Prabhupada memories on YouTube, and in the book form, he tells this story where he says that he was with Prabhupada in quarantine at, if I'm not mistaken, the Bombay airport, because they had come back from Nairobi without the vaccination, or yellow fever vaccination, thank you. And so as a result, Prabhupada had to be quarantined for like 14 days or 10 days in a building at the airport. And after some days, Bhavananda Prabhu says, Prabhupada said, I did not want to come here. You know the story? I did not want to come here. That's at least what, you know, Bhavananda Prabhu says. So Bhavananda Prabhu thought that, oh, it's, you know, he didn't want to come to the quarantine. So he started apologizing to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, I'm sorry, I forgot to get the yellow fever certificate. And then Prabhupada, according to him, said, no, I mean, I did not want to come to this material world. And then he said something which is amazing. He said, I was with Kṛṣṇa in the spiritual world, and Kṛṣṇa told me, you know, Krishna's plan. Kṛṣṇa told me, I want you to come down and preach in the material world. And I told Kṛṣṇa, no, I don't want to go to this material world. It is a horrible place. And then Kṛṣṇa told me, no, you go down, you write your books, and I will take care of everything. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So here we have an instance, if it's true, and I don't think there's any reason to believe it's not true, that, you know, Kṛṣṇa himself disclosed his plan to Prabhupada and insisted, don't worry, I've got a plan, just go there, just don't worry about it, I'll take care of everything, you know. And hence you see this mood among devotees, among great devotees, and even among small devotees like us, this desire to fulfill the plan of Kṛṣṇa, and our own little plans to fulfill the plan of Kṛṣṇa, in the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. Harikesh Swami, or ex-Swami, in his recollections, remembers that here in Vrindavan, in 74 or something, 75, he recalls that he was transcribing. Prabhupada in that time was giving the purports and the translations to the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam, which include this famous verse, Nadvodvijay, Tadvirya, what is it? Tadvirya Gayana Mahamrita Magnachita, no, Nadvodvijay Paraduradyaya Vaitaranyas, etc. That famous verse where Prahlad Maharaj says, I don't care about, going to the Himalayas. I only care about the cities, because I'm concerned with love for those, like Prabhupada translates, fools and rascals who are in the city. So Harikesh Swami recalls that as he was transcribing Prabhupada's dictations, he thought, my God, Prabhupada is so much in the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. So he approached Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, you really are in the mood of Prahlad Maharaj, isn't it? And according to Harikesh, Prabhupada replied, yes, I'm always thinking about how to deliver these fools and rascals. In 73 in Jakarta in February, Prabhupada said this one sentence. Listen to this. Everyone should become a devotee of Kṛṣṇa. That is the plan. That is the whole plan. Simple as that. So we can ask, what's your plan? What's your plan for fulfilling Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's plan? Most of the devotees here are from Indian background, so you are living in what we call the nation state of India. And you got this open order, this plan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of spreading Krishna consciousness, Prithivit yathā-yatham nagaradigram sarvatra prachar hoy bemoranam. And you've got this boat of ISKCON, and you've got this open secret that you have to be Krishna conscious. So what are you going to do to be, more and more Krishna conscious? And you have this open order, directly from our founder, and also solidified by senior devotees to help spread Krishna consciousness in, the nation state of India today. So you should be asking yourself, okay, what to do, how, kind of like Krishna. You have to ask yourself, how, in the same way that Krishna asked, how do I kill this demon? You have to, in service to the mission, ask, what can I do to help spread Krishna consciousness in India? Then you have to, take inventory. Okay, I have so much money. I have so many years left to live. I have so much, whatever talents I have from my karma or by God's mercy. How can I engage that? And what can I do to fulfill Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prediction, specifically in this Prabhudatta Desh where I'm at right now, which is, in the nation state of India, where there's, great advantages, but also there's hurdles, secularization, the so-called secular state is growing in the name of not favoring any group. What is actually being favored is atheism. So as a result, you get a godless society growing more and more in India. Not to put other religious groups down, but, for example, you have the issue of Islam growing very fast, with some components being, openly desirous to spread Sharia law in India. Replace the current system with a Sharia law system. What happens then to Vaishnavism? So these are issues that you have to ask yourself. How, what am I going to do before I die to try to be the most pure instrument in my Guru Maharaj and Prabhupada's hands in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. And putting aside our petty desires for money or for fame, for ourselves. We're willing to accept millions and crores of rupees for Mahaprabhu's service, but you have to take inventory. Like, what's my motivation? Do I want name and fame? Do I want power? Do I want position? Do I want, am I practicing Krishna consciousness so that juniors can start, looking up to me and I can have a desk and a position in an office? Or am I, trying to get more and more money for myself? I mention this because Pralamba is described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur as the demon that specifically represents lusty desires and desire for name and fame and power. Prabhupada says, if you follow Krishna's instruction, you'll always be happy. And if you create your own plans, then you'll be unhappy. This is the whole instruction. Right? You take Krishna's plan and you'll be happy. Before concluding with a few sentences, we're a little bit early, but I have a few more things to say, but perhaps we could ask for questions or comments or corrections.
You ready now?
Yes.
You were speaking about what plans are you making for preaching or fulfilling the order of the spiritual master. I think the first thing is to always remember that there's, the tatropāhūya, Kṛṣṇa said that when we surrender to the spiritual master, we're surrendering to his orders and instructions, and also cooperating with each other in such a way within the structure of the society so that we can also fulfill our mission by just following carefully. Because sometimes too much independent thinking and plan making. Well, what am I going to do to make and not really appreciating that my Guru's given me clarity and power to execute my own Krishna consciousness to the point it'll be obvious what to do and how to do if I'm in the proper cooperative mood. Can you speak about that a little bit?
Well, I suffer from being, very independent, so I don't think I'm the right person.
I know that.
Ah, good.
Because Prabhupada says you can be the protagonist or sometimes about the scientist or atheist. So the independence is good, but within the context of surrender to the Guru and following the order of the Guru by understanding his institution as well.
Maybe we could speak of two extremes. The way I see it in my really limited way. On the one extreme that may be a little unhealthy is where devotees switch off their intelligence completely. Like, well, my Guru didn't tell me to, go take prāha. I did that when I joined New Mayapur in New Mayapur in France. And during the Bhakti program, I remember, because I had read that, unless the spiritual master says you should take prāshad, you should fast. So I was like, because, ISKCON is a different system. You have Shiksha gurus, you have temple presidents. So I was with 2 or 3 other new bhaktas, and one of them was, had been around for several months already from Spain, was already wearing saffron. And I'm thinking, I know everything better than everyone else already. So, come on, let's go take prasadam. And I was like, no, temple commander didn't tell me to come and take prasadam. So, and he looked at me like, what? And he said, okay, whatever. And he just went and took prasadam. I just waited 1 hour, 2 hours. Nobody came. No guru told me to come take prasadam. So one extreme is, to close the entire, Kṛṣṇa talks about buddhi. Tesham satata yuktadam, dami buddhi yogam tam. Prabhupada wanted, it's there in black and white, his followers to be independently thoughtful. So one side, switch off your intelligence, just, and unless you're explicitly told to do something, you don't do it, even though it seems logical, it seems obvious, by all rational sense of the term. And the other extreme, is to be completely independent. I think this is also related to the demographics of ISKCON, if I may. Like when you look at a brahmachari ashram, for example, and all the members there's a lot more control and a lot more do what you're told because you're living in a very controlled environment. So brahmacharis, will tend to be a lot more obedient to specific orders that their immediate authority will give them. And historically, I don't think it's wrong to say that ISKCON in the 70s up to the mid-80s was very much sort of a big brahmachari ashram. There were very few financially independent householders. Correct me if I'm wrong, there was a handful. Ambarish Prabhu, a few, and most of the grihastas, or at least many, were living in the temple. And sometimes without even their own dhoti and saris, right? Sharing dhotis and saris with other grihastas. come mid-80s, there's a big shift in demographics to what we have today, and which I think we'll have for centuries and centuries to come, which is a congregation-based ISKCON, where it's kind of like, if you want to use the analogy of horizontal versus vertical, monastic being a very vertical structure, and sort of congregation-based Namahat style, you know, being more like a horizontal version. And so in that context, where the devotees are a lot more financially independent and have their own lives and are taking their own decisions naturally on how to educate their children or how to, you know, pay their bills or how to maintain their wives and family and so on, naturally I think there's less of a you know, you know, because you're just fine. So just the nature of the demographics of ISKCON. So coming back to this two extremes analogy, one extreme, you close off your intelligence when you're not supposed to. The other extreme is you, like Prabhupada also said, you know, you act independently or whimsically, right? So I think somehow by Krishna's mercy, we should get that healthy golden middle, you know? And then how do we strike that? Well, it's like Shruti Kirtapurabhu asked Prabhupada, like, how do we know the difference between principles and details? And Prabhupada said, that takes a little intelligence. Which is sort of a spiritually unsatisfying answer, because you'd want Prabhupada to explain more, you know, but it also has very deep significance that, you know, if you're Krishna conscious, then you'll strike that golden middle. Is that okay? No. Yes, Prabhu, here on the left.
Thank you for your beautiful words. So, last line, dvandvī-bhūya yathā-yatham. This line is very, very significant in this verse. So, Lord Kṛṣṇa, he performed this first time in Vrindavan, and he made two equal groups. He did not show here that partiality. No, this demon came to kill me, I should make my group very stronger. He gave them chance equal to come take part in our day. So in this material world we see partiality, not equal. Few months ago I used to go to one gym there. They make one game in the room, like how Lord Kṛṣṇa performed the game in Purport, gopālān. One group was this side, another group was this side. And there was one senior devotee, and he was the stronger side. I thought he will make the equal, because he is a devotee. But he made the stronger part, and I was in the lowest part, little stronger part. Then after that I told my wife, no, this is not good. This Prabhu is doing the partiality. So in this Krishna consciousness we should be equal. We should give chance to other according to their quality. And Prabhupada more than question is, you may have mentioned that Bharat Bhumite Janma Hilojar Janma Sarthakari Karo. Those devotees born in the Bharat Bhumi, they should practice Krishna consciousness, they should make successful their life, and they should help to others to bring them successfully Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada mode is bring Shudra class people in the Brahmana class. They should become a Brahman and they should teach to others, bring other Shudra to Brahmana class.
So
this
what's
your
more
than
so so basically you're saying that devotees should, if I'm not mistaken, should shine or should be the examples, or should basically think and behave ideally like Krishna does, in a sense of impartiality, correct? Yes, that's a good point, absolutely. I remember Vaisheshika Prabhu, quick story, Vaisheshika Prabhu, who's, not Vaisheshika Prabhu, Vyasaki Prabhu. Anyway, no time, it's not important. I mean, it is a nice story, but we don't have time, and there's a couple more questions, but well, yes, one time he chastised me in Paris. He says, you know, why are you criticizing this group of people? Because it was a group of people who came to this restaurant, and I made this sort of racist comment, and he's like, why do you see them like this? You know, do you think Krishna sees them like this? And it touched me. I was like, wow, you know, I should see everybody like Krishna sees them. You know, samoham sarva bhuteshu. Yes, good point. Yes, one more question or two. Shritakirti Prabhu.
You mentioned the Prabhupada statement, which I think is there once or twice, independently thoughtful. But there's also another statement, Prabhupada says, there's no question of why. The spiritual master says you do. You don't ask why. So how do we balance those two things? Because that certainly doesn't seem like independently thoughtful. He says you don't ask why. And someone says why, that question is not there. The spiritual master says and you do it.
That's a great question. You please answer it.
Sri Prabhupada, when he said that, he also clarified that the living entity has independence, and it's how they use that independence which determines which road they will take and how much progress they will make in spiritual life. That's why also in Bhagavad-Gita it says that we must approach a bona fide spiritual master and inquire from him submissively, because the self-realized soul has seen the truth. So don't misuse your independence. We've been doing that from time immemorial, and as a result we've been continually taking birth after birth after birth after birth. So once we receive knowledge from the bona fide person, then we must change our mentality and follow their instructions.
Thank you. Could Shrutakirti Prabhu, if you have, because that question, that specific question is still unanswered.
No, Prabhupada says
Does everybody follow? Like on the one side, Prabhupada says we should be independently thoughtful. On the other side, you don't question the Guru's order.
I just do what my Guru says. So, yes. So you need to find the proper Guru.
The answer is you need to find the proper Guru. Last question. Actually, I think there was one devotee there first. I'm sorry.
Hare Krishna. I was just reading a purport yesterday in Majja-lila, 24th chapter. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was instructing Sanatana Goswami about how to write the vihāra-vit. And Srila Prabhupada gives like a 4 or 5 page long and detailed purport about the qualifications of the spiritual master and the qualifications of the disciple. And it's really intense and heavy. And my understanding and my experience personally is that everything is based on trust. And when we see that the various leadership, like in your class you mentioned several ex-swamis, and presently to this day there are many people who are in positions, and what is the purpose of being in a position? It's not about position. That's not what the Shastra is saying. That's not what the Purport is saying. That's not what Hari-Bhakti-yoga is
Okay, so
saying.
what's your point, Prabhu? Because we have, please just summarize it.
Answer to the question.
Okay.
you don't need a commentary. It's in class.
I'm answering a question. He asked for an answer, which I'm answering the question based on the Purport that I read yesterday.
But can you keep it short, because we have 5 minutes. We want to close it up.
Anyways, the answer is that there's certain qualifications for a qualified guru. Who is actually qualified to be a sadhu guru?
Okay, we got it.
Shastra, and there's qualifications to be a qualified disciple, and that's also given in Shastra. So through the eyes of Shastra, through Shastra Chakshush, there's the answer to the question.
It's a good point. Shastra is the ultimate epistemological authority for us. Last question, sorry. Thank you. Question, I hope.
One of the points which I would like to recall is that the plan, Kṛṣṇa consciousness itself is running based on the plan of Kṛṣṇa. It is not an individual's plan, it is the plan of Kṛṣṇa. We are all placed in that. And whatever comes on the way, we need to just face it, not to find out a solution. Because already the plan is there.
Okay.
Like it or don't like it, it is going to work. Now,
Please, Prabhu, let us just,
Let her get a question. The question has a question.
I mean, I think you made the point. It's a very valid point. It's ultimately Krishna's plan, and we have to line up with Krishna's plan. And can you summarize, if I didn't summarize anything in one sentence?
Following Guru blindly is the solution, as it is the plan of Krishna.
Okay, following the Guru blindly is Krishna's plan. Okay, thank you. Okay, so just to finish and come back to Pralamba Sura and Kṛṣṇa and the cowherd boys. We here have accepted Krishna's plan to one degree or other, right? The plan to become Krishna conscious. We've taken up the process of Krishna consciousness. We're practicing Krishna consciousness. We're chanting Hare Krishna. We're accepting authority of 1 or 10 or 20 gurus, but Shiksha gurus, Diksha guru, temple president, GBC, whatever you want. We are trying our best to accept a parampara, either Diksha or Shiksha or both. And we should be confident that if we just continue with this process, trying our best to be strict in our sadhana, to try not to, offend Vaishnavas, try to be cooperative in the mission of Prabhupada, then we can look forward to participate in Krishna's pastimes. Imagine if Krishna told all of us here, you, my dear friends, you dance and you sing very nicely. But that's, we should have faith that this is what's waiting for us. We're in the right boat, we're in this beautiful temple, which is really a gem of ISKCON worldwide, I believe. And we're in Vrindavan Dham, and we've got everything going for us, right? So let us not drop the ball. Let us practice tolerance and humility. Everything we can. Let us be sincere. And like I said, if we continue doing that, if we continue chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, then as Prabhupada promises us, we'll go back home, back to Godhead, and we'll be able to be part of Krishna's transcendental plan, among which team we want to be in, and all the other wonderful leelas that we read in the 10th canto of the Bhagavad-Gita. So if I've offended anyone, please forgive me. Thank you very much. Please bless me. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.